over time, you became so much more than the CEO of Berkshire. I can think back to times like after the financial crisis when you would come on our air and basically try and calm people down. They were worried about what the stock market was doing. They were worried about what was happening to their money. They were worried about what was going to happen to their jobs.
They weren't just worried. They were scared. Yeah. They were scared stiff. That happens periodically in civilizations, and it doesn't happen to me in terms of making business decisions. I mean, where else, when you can buy something good cheaper, do you get upset about it?
But I wonder when it occurred to you that you could be the voice of authority that could come on the air and calm people down. A fireside chat, sort of. That's much more than just being a CEO.
I always like to talk. And I always like to talk to older people. I can't find older people anymore, but that's another separate problem. But I used to, when I'd go over to choir practice or something at the Dundee Presbyterian Church, I'd have a kind of a little rout of women who were washing dishes or doing things that they had to do in those days, and I would just make stops and I would do most of the talking. and then, for one reason or another, something happened. I still was the same way privately, but I was terrified of public speaking, and so I took a course when I actually took the course when I was 21, I guess. I actually signed up for the course when I was at Columbia, the Dale Carnegie course, and then I knew that if I didn't start talking in front of people, I knew I would revert back to where I was, and I didn't want that to happen, so I went out to the University of Omaha, which is now University of Nebraska in Omaha, and they had night classes and different things, and I just said I'd like to teach here, and they said, well, you don't have a PhD, and I said, well, I barely have a master's, but I'd still like to teach. And fortunately, I didn't know it at the time, but the three judges of whether I would be allowed to do this was Dean Thompson, I was going to marry his daughter a little later, and he really liked me, and Dean Helmstetter, and his daughter was the first girl I kissed, and Dean Lucas. Oh, he liked me too, and I liked his daughter too, but not Jordan. So I think I probably got a unanimous vote there, and then I kept teaching every year, essentially for 67 or 68 years, something like that. And I did it I did it with college students. I did it with groups of women that Creighton University got together. I did it at the Scarsdale Adult School. I did it, I just couldn't stop talking.
And you felt the need to teach because?
I loved it. Yeah. And I liked my own ideas. I just had fun teaching.
What's the toughest question you've ever got, and what's maybe the best answer you've ever given?
That's a good one. That itself may be the best. Yeah. It's the toughest question. No, I have the ability, to some extent because of where I am in life, that people will listen to me and they'll hear the same damn thing they would hear from somebody else, but they'll just pay more attention to it. They know I don't have an axe to grind. I'm not selling them time by the hour. I'm not doing anything. So I will, if I like them, I will talk to them. He had 200 schools, that wanted to come every year, and they would ask me great questions, and they'd all have a good time, and I'd have a good time. But one of the things I would tell them, it's kind of simple advice, but I would say, let's just take the class you're in back at whatever school it may be, and maybe there's 300 students in it, and you could get 10% of the earnings for the lifetime of 5 of them. Which would you pick and why? And you won't pick the one with the highest IQ. You won't pick the best athlete, and you won't pick the best looking. All kinds of things. And then I would tell them, now let's say you got to sell short. This is more fun. and 5 of them, who do you sell short? and then of course I explained at the end, you can be the person that you would buy. I mean, there is nothing impossible because it isn't whether you can, throw a football 60 yards, and it isn't, what. There's all kinds. It isn't the one with the highest IQ. I said, you can be one of the five, and why not?
By doing what?
Well, you can do it by being a good person, by reading a lot, by spending less than you take in. I just tell them, you can spend 110% of what you earn once, and then you've used it up. I mean, the rest of your life you're underwater. And why in the hell you want to be underwater, and why do you want to borrow money on credit cards? And we own credit card companies. I mean, people love spending beyond their income. A lot of people, and just forget it. And nothing wrong with a mortgage on a house that when you're, at some point. But even that, I'd be careful on. You just have to think a little and use a little discipline. And of course, who's inclined to use a lot of discipline when they're teenagers or in college? I mean, but I will tell you that don't get in debt. And I could make $150 a month delivering papers in the morning. Well, what would it take an extra hour and a half? Just get up an hour and a half earlier and have $150. Charlie used to sell himself the best hour of the day. He was charging $20 an hour for legal advice, and then he just decided that his best hour was from 6 to 7 in the morning, so he was just going to sell himself that hour. And that's not crazy. Your future is your future, and you can't expect anybody else to do it. And if you get in a hole or anything, it is difficult to dig out. It isn't that it's impossible, and I give credit to people who do it. But do it the easy way.
You have stayed so much the same over the years. You're still living in the house that you bought 60 years ago?
Yeah. 60.
65?
67 years.
Okay, 67 years ago.
Yeah. 30% of the life of the country or something like that.
Why haven't you changed? Why haven't you?
I wouldn't be happier anyplace else.
What are you proudest about with your kids?
Oh, the fact that they took it after their mother. No, it was a good thing, probably a good thing that, well, we weren't rich early. They never saw us behave like we were extremely rich or anything, although they saw us fly off to New York and do different things. Anyway, we had plenty of fun. They saw me very intense about investment management, but they didn't see us craving money just to show other people that I've got money and you don't, ha ha ha, type of stuff. And they didn't see any dynasty building, whereas they saw it some other places in Omaha. They had a good feeling about what life was about. But they still did a lot of crazy things, but of course I did too. One thing it's a difficult thing because you should be very forgiving of yourself, but not totally forgiving of yourself. But there's no sense looking back and saying, if I hadn't done this, if I hadn't done that, everything. It's just forget it in life. Nobody cares. I mean, it is history. You can't change it. You can change your behavior going forward, but and your second half of your life should be better than your first half. The problem is you don't know what it's a half of what, but you should be wiser when you get older. And I think my kids have all become quite a bit wiser, and it's nice to have somebody have faith in you. If you want to have good children, be a good parent. I mean, you just care about them, but you don't give them lectures about doing bad things when you're doing the bad things and they're actually just acting like teenagers.
You feel good.
I feel terrific, yeah. But I know it won't last forever. But then I knew it never would last forever. In '94, I won a game I didn't deserve to win. well, that's fine. I accept that, you know. This is our kind of world, folks. But, you know, the one quality that I measure people by enormously, because everybody can do it. And that's whether people are kind. I mean, that is something that really doesn't cost you anything. You know, it is an act that doesn't belong to any religion, doesn't belong to anything. And why in the world wouldn't you be kind? I mean, and some people are and some people aren't. But you feel better if you're kind, I think, too. Johnny Agnelli one time, I only met him one time. Johnny Agnelli, you know, the Fiat group, and he was quite a guy, and I met him one time. And he said, you know, when you get old, he says, you got the reputation you deserve. It's true. I mean, if you look at those people I named, you know, whether Tom Murphy or Sandy Gottesman or Walter Scott, they had the reputation they deserved in the end. But of course, if somebody dies at 40 or 30 or, you know, I mean, it's a different situation. But if you live a long time, you've got it. And kindness is, it just doesn't cost anything. You haven't given up anything. It's just so easy. And you get it back with interest.
Warren, we've covered a lot of ground. Is there anything that you feel like we've missed out on? Anything?
No, I would just ask anybody to challenge me on whether being kind could hurt them in any way, and whether the net happiness of the world wouldn't be better if they just, if every morning they said to themselves, you know, I'll have things that are good and bad that happen to me today, but I can be kind to anybody. And